The primary function of a national human rights institution like the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission is not merely to process complaints, but to actively champion and expand the frontiers of human rights for all. It is a body intended to be a shield for the vulnerable against state overreach and as armament to cut through bureaucratic indifference. I'm Kiana Canada. Welcome back to Mimicking McCarthyism, an examination of an obstruction of justice, an employee at the Northern Ireland Human Rights Commission named Rhyannon Blythe, and the troubling questions of whether the institutions designed to protect human rights have failed in their duty. Rhyannon Blythe is the legal director at the Commission. She leads on legal policy, strategic litigation, and rights-based change. Earlier this year, Blythe was selected for a prestigious fellowship program which allegedly brings together leaders committed to inclusive rights-based change. But is Blythe truly committed to inclusivity and protecting the human rights of all people in Northern Ireland? The conduct of Blythe, as experienced in the handling of my specific claim, reveals an institution that is risk-averse, procedurally manipulative, and ultimately hostile to the very rights-based change it is mandated to pursue. The central charge is this: Blythe was strategically selective in her engagement, welcoming a claim she knew was likely to fail while sabotaging a claim that carried significant and legitimate legal weight, thereby protecting an institution instead of the right holder. It's important to state that my case presented two distinct legal avenues. Path A, application for judicial review. This is a discretionary-based remedy. The courts have wide latitude to refuse permission for judicial review on various grounds, including the availability of alternative remedies, timeliness, or a simple assessment that the case lacks sufficient merit. It is a high-risk avenue for breaches of contract, and success on this route is never guaranteed. Path B, consideration under the Human Rights Act of 1998. This is the Commission's core statutory function. Section 69 of the Northern Ireland Act 1998 empowers the Commission to give assistance to individuals in proceedings involving law concerning human rights. This is a direct purpose-built mechanism for the Commission to fulfill its mandate. Blythe's willingness to engage on Path A is not evidence of support, but a calculated risk management. She knew the claim was entering a legal lottery where the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against me. Engaging here would have allowed the Commission to create a paper trail of assistance while being confident that the case would likely be filtered out by the judiciary. In essence, this would absolve the Commission of any further responsibility. And in essence, or in stark contrast, her refusal to engage on Path B is the critical failure. By law, the Commission has the power to institute proceedings itself under the Human Rights Act. For a claimant, having the Commission take on your case is a monumental advantage. We know this to be true. But she refused, and she refused to speak with me and delegated a response to an assistant. This demonstrates an active desire to avoid the more potent legal route. And that legal route was under the Human Rights Act. And it's important to state that I don't think that this is neutrality. It is a deliberate decision to holster the Commission's most effective powers. Now, let's review the fabrication of a strawman argument. The assistant's response, allegedly written on Blythe's behalf, constitutes a profound and unethical breach of process. By stating the commission felt the claim wouldn't succeed on the grounds I never submitted, they committed a classical logical fallacy, the straw man argument. First, I advanced claims regarding freedom of expression, the right to assembly, and the right to education under the European Convention on Human Rights. However, the Commission rejected my case based on grounds that I never submitted. This is not a minor administrative error. It is evidence of either gross incompetence or deliberate sabotage. A legitimate rights-based body would, 1, engage directly with the claimant to understand their arguments. 2, assess the claim on the merits as presented. 3, provide a reasoned analysis for any refusal, citing specific legal precedents or factual inconsistencies related to the actual claim. By inventing and then attacking a weaker, fabricated case, the Commission created a pretext for dismissal without ever having to engage with the substantive legal and factual heart of my grievance. And as we know, this is the antithesis of advocacy. Now to my next point, fitting the McCarthyist Playbook. The term McCarthyism refers not just to the hunting of communists, but to a broader tactic, using institutional power to suppress dissent and unpopular views by manipulating processes to isolate, to discredit, and exclude those who hold them, such as myself. Blythe's action fits this playbook with disturbing precision. And to support this argument, let's look at the political litmus test. Well, not exclusively about communism, a modern human rights institution can impose an unspoken ideological litmus test. And this is how they do it. Does the case align with the current acceptable human rights agenda? Is the case too controversial? Does it challenge a powerful state entity? Now that is an important one. My claims, particularly regarding expression and assembly at Queen's University, involved challenging state orthodoxy. By refusing my human rights claim on fabricated grounds, Blythe acted as a threshold guardian, determining my specific struggle for rights was not one that it was willing to legitimize with its full authority. So what else did Blythe do? She upheld bureaucracy. McCarthyism used congressional procedures not for justice, but for spectacle and condemnation. Here, Blythe used bureaucratic procedure not to facilitate a rights claim, but to strangle it. The silent refusal to communicate, the delegation to a subordinate, and the strawman rejection letter is evidence of procedural sabotage. They create a facade of due process while ensuring the outcome is a foregone conclusion, the suppression of the claim. Now, what else did she do? Isolation and demoralization. The goal is to make the dissenting voice feel powerless and illegitimate. By refusing to speak to me directly afterwards, Blythe sent a clear message. You and your claim are not worth my time or the Commission's direct attention. This is a tactic of isolation designed to demoralize and exhaust right holders, encouraging them to abandon their quest for justice. Now let's look at creating a chilling effect. The ultimate success of this tactic is its deterrent value. The Commission, under leaders like Blythe, is known to actively sabotage claims it deems inconvenient. It chills the willingness of others to come forward. It signals that the Commission is not a safe haven for all human rights claims, but only for those that are politically palatable and non-confrontational. The evidence as presented paints a picture of an official who is not an advocate for justice, but a manager of dissent. Blythe was content to guide a claim toward discretionary high failure rate mechanism of judicial review. However, when confronted with a request to activate the Commission's own potent statutory human rights powers, a request that would have required courage, conviction, and a genuine commitment to a rights-based outcome, she retreated into a shell of bureaucratic silence and manufactured justifications. This is not inclusivity. It is the opposite. Exclusion based on an unstated and unaccountable calculus of risk and convenience. It is not advocacy for rights-based change. It is the administration of its suppression. By employing this classic McCarthyist tactics of ideological exclusion, procedural weaponization, and the straw man argument, the conduct of Blythe betrays the very principles of universal and impartial human rights protection that the Commission was established to uphold.